They should be very careful when receiving emails, calls, or texts, because it could be scammers that are using that information to elicit a friendlier response and try and trick them into either handing over additional personal information or giving them access to bank account details.
So being careful with, text messages and emails, is that enough? So is that all you can do?
At this stage, that's the primary thing that you really need to focus on. The challenge is going to be in the future where, once you've lost your identity information, scammers or other individuals can use that to basically open up accounts in your name or take out loans. And so one of the things that we're really worried about is this is going to have a very long tail where people may have debt collectors coming after them in a couple of years' time, looking for money that they've got to claim back based on these accounts that have been opened and used. There are instances of identity theft in the past in other situations where effectively driver's license details were used to rent cars, and so as a result, the rental cost, any tolls on freeways that were used are often sought after by debt collectors. So it's something that they need to really sort of watch and be aware of.
We live in an age where our data is shared so much, and often companies require your data and your personal information in order to use their service. But we also live in an age where there are sophisticated measures to protect that data. So how can this happen?
So it looks like, and we're waiting for Optus to officially announce exactly what happened, but it's rumoured that what's called a application programming interface, or an API, which is often used for machine-to-machine communications, was left unprotected. And unfortunately, because of the complexity of technology, this could happen in any organisation, whether it's Telstra or a large bank or a retailer of some sort. So really what we need to get to is a point where companies are thinking of information and data not as an asset that they can exploit or monetize, but that once they finish using that information or data for whatever purpose, in the case of Optus for identifying customers, they should have really looked at destroying that data rather than sort of keeping it lying around. So think of data as a liability as opposed to an asset.
With data protection laws, we do have them in place, but how strong are they? Are they regulated properly? Are they enforced enough?
We do have laws in place. Unfortunately, I think the fines are too low to really spur companies to act. If you look at the European laws, which are GDPR, if that had have been the equivalent in Australia, Optus would have had a much more severe fine than they've currently likely to get. So really we need to look at boosting our protection of consumer data, and we're likely to see some changes as a result of the Privacy Act legislation, which is currently being reviewed at the moment.
So there are some things, perhaps in the legal sense, perhaps things that companies can do. What about individuals? How can we better protect ourselves when, as I said earlier, it's often a requirement that you hand over this information?
Definitely. And some of the challenges, you might be part of a loyalty program. You may have been enticed by an organisation to provide your details to get a discount, or to get some sort of member bonus. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't really read the terms and conditions of those agreements. And so companies can on-sell that data. They may use that data for other purposes. So it's really about being more conscious of the data that we're giving away. Data has a value, and data is really an asset. And we've got to think about, if we use our personal information to get a discount or join a loyalty program, if that data is lost, what kind of impact are we likely to suffer in the future from an identity theft perspective? People opening up accounts in our names and accruing debt. And it's really, we've got to think about the inconvenience every time something like this happens to get our license replaced or our passport. So it really kind of indicates that we need to do more than just sort of have an identity system based on licenses and passports or Medicare numbers.